Okay, good morning, afternoon, guys. This is day 4 of our airline aircraft safety investigation course. Thank you for surviving the last 3 days. Hopefully you feel quite eager to continue on the course and you feel really refreshed. So what I'm going to do initially is to look at the state accident investigation. So why do we carry out investigations? So I'm going to give you a sort of a brief introduction to it, and then maybe you tell me what you'd like to learn from this in this module. So the reason why we carry out accidents is really to prevent accidents and incidents. It is not the job of aircraft investigators to apportion blame or liability. We leave that to the judiciary. So an investigation shall determine the facts, conditions, and circumstances pertaining to the survival or non-survival of the occupants of the aircraft. The reason that we investigate an accident is because there must be evidence of hazards or safety deficiencies. Remember, in the previous module, we looked at what's a hazard, what's a safety deficiency, and what we can do to minimize the consequences of the hazards or safety deficiencies. So again, the reason why we're in accident is because there is then evidence that there are hazards or safety deficiencies that haven't been addressed by the aviation system. So when an investigation is carried out properly, it will identify all immediate and underlying systemic causes or contributory factors of the accident or incident. Generally, within the investigations, we're going to have recommendations. Some people always think that recommendations will come towards the end. That's not necessarily the case. Recommendations can come at any time. If you remember the Germanwings incident, there were recommendations literally a few days after the accident. So the reason why we have recommendations is for the improvement to the crashworthiness of the aircraft, and also preventing or minimizing injuries to aircraft occupants in the future. We also have a final report. So really, this is mostly the completion of the sort of official investigation is the final report. And also the final report is actually a record of the accident and or incident. So what I really want you to do now is, if you could please tell me, what are your goals for this module? What do you want to learn in this module? And then I will let you know what I prepared for you. Most likely, our goals are going to align. So can I please have you use your pointer and the type text to tell me what are your goals for this module? So I'm going to give you a couple of seconds. I can see the pointers are there, just waiting for you. You tell me, what are your goals? Okay, so I see Nesta said to describe how accident investigations are carried out. Definitely, we're going to be looking to this. You can imagine how complex it is to look at it in accident and try to find the root causes. So yes, we'll be looking at that. And the next one, I'd like to know about the role of competent authorities in accident investigations. Yes, this is really a difficult area, and I'll be telling you what different countries do depending on their resources. I'd like to better distinguish the rights and responsibilities of the different states involved in an accident investigation. Perfect, really good. So here we have different states. As an example, you can have state of occurrence. So this is where the accident has happened, or you can have state of registry. So the state in which the aircraft is registered. We'll be looking at that. Lisa is saying, list the contents of an accident safety investigation report. Yes. It was very important for us later on to look at what goes into a report. So areas like the synopsis, the analysis part, which is main body, and also recommendations, and what goes into the appendix. Perfect, really good, really good. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. So now I'm going to share with you some of the goals of this module. So the first one is summarize the reporting lines of your accident investigation bodies. So who do they report to? So in the first place, when an accident happens, what body is set up to investigate the accident and who do they report to? And also, for example, the final report, where does it go to? So the second is discuss the organization and planning of the investigation. So you can imagine after an accident, most likely people would have perished, the aircraft been destroyed. So it's a really tough situation emotionally and everything else. So therefore, in order to execute the investigation efficiently, you need people who have actually planned it before, try to rehearse and know exactly what to do, because under very difficult circumstances, because otherwise, in another time, it would still be quite difficult because of it. It's very complex to investigate an accident. The other thing we're looking at is distinguish the rights and obligations of the different participants in a state accident investigation. So here, we are looking at the state of occurrence. What are their rights and obligations? So this is where the accident has taken place. You also have the set of registry where the aircraft is registered in. We also have the state of the design of the aircraft and also manufacture of the aircraft. So many people find this really confusing. What's the difference between state of design and state of manufacture? We normally think, well, it's the same thing. But if you look at Boeing, for example, so the state of design is obviously the US of A, but you know that Boeing aircraft are also manufactured in China. In that case, now the state of manufacture is China. So these different states have got different responsibilities and rights when it comes to aircraft investigation. We're also going to be looking into the list of sort of the contents of the accident incident investigation in the sort of final report. So how is the final report constructed? So what you normally have is obviously the title, whatever the accident is, and then you have the synopsis, which really some of you guys might know is an executive summary, and you have the main body. So the main body will cover things like the factual information, the analysis of those information, the conclusions, and also the safety recommendations. So what's very important, especially nowadays, is that yes, we know that accidents do happen and they will always happen, although we really want to minimize them. But now we have a safety management system that tries to minimize the risk to be as low as reasonably practicable. So we want the recommendations to feed into the safety management system. So there are two main processes within safety management systems, and one is safety risk management and the other one is safety assurance, which if you remember we covered 2 days ago. So it is important that the recommendations feed into these systems so that we reinforce our defenses. If our defenses are reinforced, most likely we are going to have less accidents and incidents. Very good. So you can see that from whatever you've given me as what you'd like to learn in this module, there's very much a good alignment of what I've said as the objectives of the module and also what you'd like to learn. So remember, you were sent by Artie some information to read, pre-reading materials about a week ago, a week before you joined the course. So can you please show me whether you've read the information or not? So green tick if you have read the information, X if you haven't. It's not disastrous if you haven't looked at the material. We still have time. You can still look at it. So, oh, fantastic. Really, really good, guys. Looks like everybody has read the material. So now, what I'm going to do is try and see whether you remember some of the stuff that I put in the pre-reading material. So to do that, I'm going to be asking you some questions. So what I want you to do is to use the pointer in what I call sort of a thermometer of knowledge. So I've got a few areas that I want to check whether how comfortable you feel about what you read, whether you feel comfortable or not. So can you please indicate to me if you feel very comfortable you can point towards the green. If you are somewhat in the middle, you're not so sure, yellow, and if you really feel uncomfortable, you can then point the red part of the thermometer. So the first question is obviously summarize the reporting lines of your state accident investigation body. Do you know the reporting, who do they have to report to and what they have to report to? So that's fine. So most of you guys are sort of in the yellow. That's fine. This is very important for me because it really tells me how much I have to delve into these areas later on during the module. Thank you. So the second part is discuss the organization and planning of the investigation. How comfortable do you feel in discussing the organization and planning of the investigation? So when an accident happens, what happens? Which bodies is going to be investigating the accident and how are they going to do it? Oh, interesting. So we have Euro and Philip feeling very confident. That's good. So hopefully later on we're going to share some experiences there. And some of you guys are, again, in the yellow. That's fine. It's very, very important for me. Thank you very much. Then the third one is distinguish the rights and obligations of the different participants in a state accident or incident investigation. So these are the state of occurrence, like I say, state of registry, state of manufacture, state of design. Do you know their rights and obligations? Okay, fantastic. Alexandra is feeling very confident, good. And most of you guys are in the middle, and Carla is feeling very confident as well. Perfect, really good. Thank you, guys. And lastly, how do you feel about listing the contents of an accident incident investigation final report? Do you know what goes into the final report? So if you could please indicate for me. Perfect, really good. So it seems like most people are quite confident with what goes in the final report. It's interesting actually that in the final assessment, I would actually ask you to analyze the report and tell me how good that report is. So we're going to do that at some point tomorrow. Okay, that's fine. Thank you guys, really, really good. Thank you very much. So what I'm going to do again is try and find out, I'm going to try and find out sort of how much you remember from the previous material. So the first thing is using the chat function, can you please answer this question? What is the difference between an accident and a serious incident? If you remember, what is the difference between an accident and a serious incident? So if you could try and put in the chat. Okay. So I'm looking here. Anna is saying accident actually happened. Okay, good. And Alexander is saying accident equals big damage to people and property. Fantastic. It is the outcome. Nessa, very good. What occurred? Good, good. Death as care. I like that. Yes, really, really good. Yes, yes. So really, the main difference is actually, okay, Euro, yeah, scenarios. A serious incident is when an accident nearly occurs. Good, good, but didn't actually happen. Very good. Serious incident is when accident almost happened or partially avoided. That's Lisa. Perfect, guys. Really, really good. So normally, like what Alexandra said, when it's an accident, it's normally one of three things or a combination of the things that happen. So either people have died or they sustained serious injuries. And actually, I recommend you to look at what's a serious injury according to the ICAO definition. It's always very important legally to look at the ICAO definitions. Sorry. The second part is the damage that has been done to the aircraft structure, and also the third one, which is quite has happened recently, is an aircraft is missing and hasn't been found. So remember what happened to the Malaysian Airlines MH370. So again, that also is considered to be an accident. So an incident is something that's almost happened. Potentially would have been very, very catastrophic, but it didn't happen. So we're looking at things like an aircraft almost collided, for example, with a mountain, but it didn't happen. Or there was fire in a cargo compartment, but you know what? It was extinguished. So therefore, we consider those to be serious incidents. Really good, really good. Thank you, guys. So again, so the difference really is in the result. The difference lies only in the result between an accident and a serious incident. Really good. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. So moving on, we have another question. For this time, we have a poll, and I'm just waiting for the poll to be launched. So the question is, who shall forward a notification of an accident or serious incident? Is it A, ICAO, B, state of registry, or C, state of occurrence? So from your reading of the material that I gave you, who shall forward a notification of an accident or serious incident? Is it A, B, or C? So I'm just waiting for you to your answer. Okay, just waiting. Okay, fantastic. So we have 33% saying that it should be B, state of registry, and 67% saying it should be state of occurrence. So according to ICAO Annex 18, which is what we follow in terms of accident investigation and serious incident investigation, so the answer is C, state of occurrence. So really good, so 67%. So the guys who say state of registry, why did you say that? Anybody wants to unmute and tell me why they think it was supposed to be state of registry? Just a quick one. Yes, Alexandra.
Yes. Well, I was thinking that is mentioned. That is what is mentioned in ICAO Annex 13.
Okay. Okay. I can
and that's why I don't know if I'm confused, but that's why I marked B.
Okay, no, that's good. I can see why maybe you're confused, because the state of registry really participates in the accident investigation, but they are not in charge. So you can imagine that if an aircraft crashes in your country, you'd expect that it's your country who's in charge of actually carrying out and notifying this investigation. So the state of registry is where the aircraft is registered, so it could be in a different country altogether. So they don't have sort of the legal justification in carrying out the investigation. They have to be invited in. So ICAO says it must be the state of occurrence. So hopefully that's clear, Alexandra.
Just another question. So who's leading the investigation then?
Very good, Alexandra. So it is the state of occurrence. So as long as that state is signatory to the Chicago Convention, Article 26 of the Chicago Convention says is the state in which the accident happens who shall, so it's really a must, that have to carry out the notification and also the investigation. So
that's why I got a little bit confused when who's leading in the notification. But
okay.
Now, thank you very much.
Really good, really good. And the notification, if you remember from what you read in the material, so it could be through a telephone, email, fax, or any other means that can be done. Also, what's very important is, do we really have to notify ICAO maybe when this happens? And the answer is yes, provided the aircraft weighs more than 2,250 kilograms or is a turbojet aircraft, then yes, we also have to notify ICAO and all the other states that I mentioned before, state of registry, state of design, state of manufacture, they also have to be notified. So thank you guys for that, really good answers. Okay, so do you have any questions from your pre-reading material that I gave you? Any questions? Okay, that's fine. If not, we're gonna move on now to a very interesting area, investigation authorities. So this is an area which is quite difficult because, as you can imagine, you would need a lot of resources in order to investigate an accident. Because you can think, you need to take people to the site of the accident. They need to have sometimes relevant materials, because the accident could have involved dangerous goods, as an example, or in a difficult area terrain. These people need to live somewhere. The investigators need to be fed. So there is a lot of resources that are required. So there are different ways in which countries do this. So countries like the UK and the USA, they have a dedicated investigation body that is in place all the time, and it's independent from the civil aviation authorities. So in the UK, there's the AAIB, Aircraft Accident Investigation Branch, and in America, we have the NTSB, National Transportation Safety Board. So they carry out the investigation, and they're totally independent from any other organization. But as you can imagine, this is costly having these bodies. So what do other countries do? So some countries, what they do is they don't have this body standing all the time. What they do is when an accident happens, then they set up a commission. So this commission will consist of people seconded from different aviation areas, and it is important that the commission reports either to the Parliament, Congress, or directly to the minister, depending on the setup, political setup of that country. But there might be some issues here because of sort of independence. If they are seconded from different areas, and if these different areas are going to be investigated, do we think that they're going to be very impartial? So that could be a problem. What you also have in other countries is that you have the CAA forming part of the investigation body. And again, there are some issues here. Maybe we're going to discuss potential issues here shortly. But since we all come from different countries, I think this is a good time for me to ask you what happens in your country. So please, if you can use the WebEx pointer showing what happens. So let me read what are the possible options. So it's either that you have investigation function is separated within CAA, but still functions within CAA, or the CAA conducts the investigation, or another entity conducts the investigation. So please, if you can let me know what happens in your country. And we're going to discuss sort of the pros and cons of the decisions. Okay, so I can see, good. Okay. Interesting. Perfect, okay. So for most of you, it's really, investigation function is separated within CAA, but still functions within CAA, which there are some issues here, and I'm glad nobody mentioned B, because that would be really compromise the investigation and other entities. So I'm going to ask Alexandra why you put other entities. I mean, why you think it's good that you have other entities in your country.
This because that's what was referred to my previous question, in fact.
Yes.
And so that's where I got confused. But from what you said before, it would be the authorities in the authority of where it occurred, so where the occurrence happened. So would it be the investigation body that is formed by that country, the country of occurrence?
Yes. So that's good, because if you actually, you know what? Rather than me telling you, I want Nesta. Nesta, please, can you tell me why do you think it might be a problem for the CAA to be part of an investigation? Nesta, any ideas?
Sure, because they might not be impartial. So
very good.
That's the reason why. Although it's not what occurs in my country, so that's why I chose the first one.
Yeah. So here we're not saying really countries are doing anything wrong. Like I said, it depends on resources. But Nesta, you're correct. What if is the problem with the CAA? Do you think they'll be totally impartial? Maybe not. And also people working on the investigation and who also work for the CAA, they might feel really compromised, and then they need their jobs. Are they really going to come out and say yes, the CAA was doing something wrong? So that makes it very difficult. So C ideally is the right thing to do. But like I say, it depends on different issues we have in terms of resources. It might not always be the case that we have C. But what I've seen recently in other countries is that you could have 3, 4, 5 countries putting resources together and forming an investigative body which will investigate any accident or incident in any one of the countries. So to me, that really makes sense. If at all there is not enough resources to have an independent body, for each country, that makes sense. So we have a document, actually, this I'll recommend you to go through, which talks about exactly how these investigation bodies should be set up, how they should investigate an accident. And what this document says is that state accident investigation authorities must be strictly objective. That's very important. They have to be objective. This means that not influenced by personal feelings or opinions. They must be really free to do their job. And they should also be totally impartial. So treating all those involved equally, and that's very important. And then the third one is perceived to be the above. It's very important. We need to have confidence in what sort of the final recommendations that are coming from the investigative body, because if we're not confident, most likely then we're not going to implement this, or we just want to do it as just a talk and show that yes, we're complying, but we don't really believe in what the recommendation coming from the investigative body. So it is important that we have all the three in place, because remember, the reason why we're investigating is we don't want to have these accidents or serious incidents again. So it is very important that we learn from these accidents. So we need really to have confidence in the people telling us that this is what went wrong, this needs to be rectified. So if we don't have that confidence, most likely we're not going to take the report seriously, and most likely these hazards or safety deficiencies we spoke about will still be underlying within the aviation system, and that is detrimental to the safety of aviation. That's good. So we've worked really hard for now, guys. So what I'm going to say is, do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? So we've looked into what happens generally. I'm going to get into more detail now. How do we carry out the investigation? Yes, Dylan? Dylan, go ahead and mute, please.
Sorry. I have a question. Does it ever happen that a third party not involved in the accident will lead the investigation?
Fantastic question, Dylan. Yes, it does happen. So what happens is, it could be, let's say I'm from a country that is very small, they don't have the resources, and then they can contract somebody like the AAIB from the UK, say, whenever we have an accident in our country, please, can you come and help us? But then what is important is, it is this small country which is responsible for carrying out the investigations. But yes, they can pass on that responsibility to a third party as long as there is an agreement and the third party can carry out the investigation. So yes, fantastic question, Dylan. So yes, that can happen. Thanks for that. Any other questions? If not, I think we deserve a tea break. So what's going to happen is, after the break, I'll go through how actually the investigations are carried out, the responsibilities of the different states. Remember, like I said, state of occurrence, state of registry, state of design, state of manufacture. We're going to go through all that, and also what goes into a report, the recommendations, and also the analysis. So thank you very much, guys. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes straight, get a drink of choice, hot or cold, and I'll see you back in 10 minutes. Thank you very much. See you soon.